Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Think of all that time. Every wait in the winter. All those hours no one else. Think of all that time. Think of every sacrifice in the summer. Every wait in the mornings on the levee. Late nights in the film room. Bus rides to playoff games. Every bump in the road. Every moment of ecstasy. Every moment of doubt. Years wondering. Is it all worth it? It's all led to this. It's a 60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. After all the miles we've traveled, we're almost there. After all the hours we've worked, one more can make us legends. After all that time, this is our time.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Good knowing exactly where to go with the football.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice. Back here with the shy kid, Mike Hughes, as always, to talk some basketball, both NBA and WNBA, since the WNBA season officially kicked off this past week. Ton of drama, ton of heat, ton of stories that all has come from this. We're talking about the Indiana Pacers making it into the Eastern Conference Finals for the second year in a row. And then, of course, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese's college rivalry continues on into their professional careers and whatnot. And we will dive into that because there's a whole lot of mess involved with that, Mike. But buddy, how are you, good sir? Appreciate you joining in with me.
I'm okay, man. My pregnancy's over. My belly air has disappeared. I had 2 hernia surgeries, by the way, for anybody that didn't know. I've been gone for like 2 weeks. I feel like really making content, just trying to do like little things here and there. I was you should see me rolling off the couch, couldn't stand up. It was nuts, but I think we're pretty good.
They say there's kind of an old school, I think it's a meme or maybe it's from Reddit. Or actually, it might have even been from YouTube. It's like real old. There's a joke of like different ways of asking, like, can you get pregnant, and different ways of reading it. And Mike's is, can you get pregante or not? And Mike is evident that you can, just with hernias.
for sure.
It just
Couldn't
pain in the
fart.
butt to be removed.
Couldn't fart for 3 days. It was crazy.
But let's dive into the first topic, buddy. So Pacers make it to Eastern Conference Finals for the second year in the row. Now, last year they got absolutely swept by Boston. But funny enough, the team that they had to beat to get there was the New York Knicks. Now, the New York Knicks do the reverse. They take care of Boston. They make it into this first round. Now, what's really interesting with the East, all of these playoff matchups have been pretty handed. I mean, the longest series involved, the Knicks in both ones. They went 4-2 against the Pistons. They went 4-2 against the Celtics. The Pacers went 4-1 in both their series. Boston, 4-1 against the Magic, and then obviously the Cavs swept the Heat. So the East it's pretty evident as to who some of the top teams are in the East. Now in the West, a little bit more interesting because the Nuggets and the Thunder both took their series to 4-3. Obviously, the Timberwolves had a little bit of an easier pathway because they took the Lakers down 4-1, did the same thing the Warriors 4-1. And they're actually going to face the Timberwolves tonight at 8:30 on ESPN. OKC's favored in this first game by 6.5. But back to Indy, though. Mike, for you, I know you're a fan of the Bulls, but you're a little bit of a neighbor right here to the Hoosier state and whatnot. You're not too far by. What's your thoughts with this Pacers team, at least kind of coming out? Because I mean, they have been a little bit battle tested. They beat Giannis and the Bucks, although it's not the same Giannis and Bucks that we've probably been used to over the last little bit. They also did have the benefit of Dame Lillard and his Achilles going bye-bye. So they got a little bit of a break in that. Now with the Cavs, they kind of had the real test. They could win both games in Cleveland kind of by shockers, which is really surprised. There's kind of talks that Cleveland maybe is a little bit soft. And then again, they also get the benefit of Donovan Mitchell getting hurt in that series. And then it was just a completely different Cavs team as a whole. So do you think they're ready to face a team like the Knicks, who it just seems like the Knicks and Pacers are both so doubted? Nobody really had them favored to really make this type of a run, and one of them is going to go to the finals. And yet here both teams are kind of proving beyond a shadow of the doubt. One beat the 1 seed in the East in the Cavs, the other beat the defending NBA champion, Boston Celtics and whatnot. So what's your thoughts so far on the East, the Pacers, and the Knicks?
Yeah, well, I mean, shout out to, I think it was AEW or WWE, whichever one had Halliburton and Brunson face off a year
That was
ago.
WWE.
They did predict that, which I thought was really cool. And at first I thought it was AI when I saw it, because I actually didn't see that original whatever that was a year ago. So to see that now, I was like, oh, this is a cool little AI thing they just did. And they were like, no, it's real. And I was like, oh, that's incredible. Like that is super cool that's happening right now. And especially I bet they're probably not talking at the moment, but they will talk about that at some point between Brunson and Halliburton on how cool that experience was. Also wanted to give my flowers to Halliburton. I don't know if you saw what happened to that Indiana Pacers fan in New York the other night, getting bags thrown on him. I mean, you could just imagine what's inside of those bags. Getting not what I mean, I don't believe he was assaulted physically by anybody, but it was a mob of Knicks fans going crazy. Halliburton actually is flying him out for Game 4 in Indy. He's a local fireman, local first responder, so that's really cool to see him be able to get that opportunity. I don't know if Mike would be wearing a Bulls jersey in New York to get Game 4 tickets in Chicago. Maybe. I gotta know what's in those bags, Tone. I gotta know what's in those. I'm not getting piss or anything thrown on me. I can't. Are you risking it?
Nah, I say because that's dedication. That would honestly, like, even though I'm not a Cowboys fan anymore, that would be like me still taking some of the Cowboys jerseys I got, going to Philly to a home game and not expecting to get like a beer thrown at me or getting flipped off or cussed out or whatnot. Like,
So I'll flip it to make it make more sense for you, because obviously basketball, you have a love for basketball, but football is where your heart is. Would you wear a Dallas Cowboys jersey to Philly in a playoff atmosphere if it meant you got to go to a Cowboys Super Bowl game for free?
Okay, yeah, I might consider that then. I mean, if it's to the Super Bowl, I might.
And for people that don't know, Tone's about what are you, Tone? Like 6'4", 6'5", something like
6'3".
6'3". All right. Tone can hold his own. They got to throw those bags pretty high to get to Tony. You know what I mean? Like I'm 5'8". You just really got to just tip it over, and I'm hitting the ground. But you would do it. I would go into Green Bay with a Caleb Williams jersey if it meant the Bears made it to the Super Bowl.
There we go. Oh yeah, for the Bears, yeah, I'd do it.
Probably got some boxing gloves on too, and I'm going crazy. Like
did you ever watch that 70s show?
Yeah, of course. Oh, when Eric beat that guy's ass in the Walter Payton jersey.
Yes.
And Reg's just like, that's my son. That's like the only time I ever saw him proud of him, bro. But it was wild. But I don't know how we got here. But the Pacers, they're a unique team. I think they're really cool. Somebody that I wanted the Bulls to draft, they ended up taking Patrick Williams, was Obi Toppin. Didn't have success with the New York Knicks. Ended up going to the Indiana Pacers and is having a lot of success right now alongside Tyrese Halliburton. Miles Turner, big man, shoots the 3 ball. Love what we're seeing from him. But overall, the overall spacing and the shot creation from this team, it's really exciting. And I think for me, the biggest thing about them is being the overrated team. You know what I mean? Yeah. We heard all year long that Tyrese Halliburton was the most overrated player in the league, and he's out here calling game winners. You can find those videos on Inside the Hoosier Mind on TikTok and all social media platforms. But to see him really just own that and dominate on the court, we heard everything about his dad and how that's an issue. No more problems with his dad. You know what I mean? Yeah. They have really locked in, and they have really been the best versions of themselves. They hear all the doubters. They really just playing ball, and that's what I love. Tyrese Halliburton is both him and his other personality, because they have his 2 voices. They're both great. I think Tyrese Halliburton is one hell of a player, man, one hell of a person. And I really love seeing what we're seeing from them right now.
Yeah. Here's the only thing, listening to a lot of other Pacers fans, especially the ones that I work with and whatnot. And real quick, shout out to MJ, the World of Conscious Positive Thinking, for tuning in, and Amber and Aloria from Into the Weeds podcast, both great hosts here on NBR. So here's the thing that makes a lot of Pacers fans worried here. I noticed it more during that Cleveland series more than anything, because to me, Cleveland was more of a test than the Bucks were. And I say that again as a very casual NBA fan. Yeah, I didn't hear a whole lot of people thinking like, the Bucks could potentially make a real deep run. Like it was one of those like, yeah, they're in there. If they do, cool. If not, we're not really gonna be surprised. Is when they got to Cleveland and they got that first win, it's like, okay, cool. They got the momentum. They came in hot. Like they were ready to go. Then they get the second win. It's like, all right, y'all got the 2 big wins. You got the 2 big things out of the way. The next 2 are at home. You should be fine. One of the Pacers fans I worked with brought this up. She said that she was worried that the Pacers were going to get cocky, and then, Cleveland was going to potentially be able to come back. Sure enough, Cleveland dominates in that first series game in Indy. And then Indy was obviously able to turn around. They absolutely dominated that second game, and they went up 3-1. That's my fear with Indy. And I say that because if you look on the other side with the Knicks to me aren't really that team that may dominate you, but they're going to be scrappy enough that they're just going to keep fighting. And if you take your foot off that gas pedal, the Knicks are going to absolutely, run all over you, and they're going to fight and claw their way back into that position to be able to at least win the game. Yeah. So that to me is really, I think, the biggest fear for the Pacers as far as being able to make a deep run is, look, you, like you said, everybody has underestimated you this entire time. Everybody has underestimated Halliburton. Everybody has underestimated Obi. Like, this is not a team that everybody said at the beginning of the season, like, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to do that, but we don't see them making another deep run into the playoffs as a whole. So
yeah, I like what you said.
Like that's something to me that I'm like, if I'm the Pacers, you got to focus. You've been here before because you were able to do it last year. And then obviously you ran into the buzzsaw that was Boston. Now, obviously watching the games, there were some questionable, sketchy calls from the referees and whatnot. Doesn't necessarily change that you got swept 4-0. I mean, maybe it makes it better and you got swept 4-1 in a gentleman's sweep, but still, like, don't underestimate your opponent, because again, you haven't got there to the finish line. You haven't got to the finals, and you haven't potentially won the finals, because whoever comes out of the West, obviously, is going to be a tall task just by itself,
Yeah.
because you got the Wolves with Karl Anthony Towns, and then you have obviously OKC, the young gun and team that has absolutely gone off the last couple of seasons, realistically. So these next two series, potentially, if they make it, is probably going to be some of the toughest that the Pacers have to face this whole season.
Yeah, and I will say, Cat is in New York now, so that's kind of like a right now problem. Anthony Edwards is the one in Minnesota.
I don't know why
Come
I
on,
get those
come on,
mixed
Tone.
up.
Michael
I
Jordan's
know.
son. You can't forget
I
MJ's
know.
son.
I know.
But you know, I do agree with everything you're saying, and something that wasn't really brought up too much. I feel like everybody talked about Damian Lillard tearing his Achilles, and as devastating as that was, like you said, like Giannis and Dame weren't really a tall order. You know, Bobby Portis obviously, you know, missed a lot of time after the suspension. Neither here nor there. The big thing for me with Cleveland was Defensive Player of the Year. Evan Mobley missed a few games. He was injured. Darius Garland's their starting point guard, missed a few games, and obviously Spider goes down as well. You know, it's definitely evident that injuries have been a huge part of what has benefited the Indiana Pacers, but I would also argue that we've seen that time and time again. I mean, do the Warriors go to the finals if Kawhi doesn't go down, if CP3 doesn't go down? You know, we can have those conversations time and time again. LeBron with D Rose and Paul George and Indy and so many other things. So it's definitely a part of it. The only thing now is I would say, you know, they're fully healthy. You know, you're going up against New York and they're fully healthy right now. And you're really just going to have to go tick for tack with them. Now, I am very familiar with a New York play style that is Tom Thibodeau, because he was the Chicago Bulls head coach for quite some time. I'll say the majority of these starters in the Eastern Conference Finals are going to be playing over 40 minutes a game. That's just what it is. He tightens that rotation to a T. You basically get 5.5. He might not even give the six man a full shot. You know, like that's how Tibbs is. So the thing I do love about Indy is they do have a bench. They do have a guy like Pascal Siakam, who I feel like a lot of people forget where Pascal Siakam even is nowadays. They do have a solid bench. They do have a 1. They do have a 2. They have a 3. Miles Turner can even take over in certain games. Obi Toppin, you know, it's a revenge moment for Obi Toppin, you know, so it's exciting to see what he's going to be able to do. I think right now understanding depth and fresh legs is going to be the way and the key to beating the New York Knicks. You definitely understand that Tibbs is going to shorten that rotation to the point to where Josh Hart is running a marathon once every 2 days. So, you know, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Indy decides to do and how many minutes Halliburton and others are going to be playing.
Yeah. So real quick before we go to commercial break, who do you have in the series? Like how many games?
Oh man, I'm on the indie pod, so I don't want to do this.
Hey, if you got to go with the Knicks, that's fine.
Look, I'm going with the Ninja Turtles, man. I gotta go with the 4. I think what they were able to do playing together since Villanova. Shout out Dante DiVincenzo, by the way, still in the playoffs. So the Villanova, they're all still there. They're just not together. I got to go with the guys who have been playing together for years, and I'm really excited to see how they continue to grow, continue to develop. Karl Anthony Towns has been great, and I think it would be one hell of a storyline if the two teams that traded with each other in the offseason in the New York Knicks and the Minnesota Timberwolves for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and Karl Anthony Towns ended up playing each other in the finals to see who really won that trade. I think it would be really incredible. But in this series, you know, I think you have the most clutch player in the league versus the most overrated player in the league. That's according to their peers in Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton. So you're going to find out who's really clutch and who's really overrated in this series. It's going to come down to which one of them can really step up, because I know what Cat can do. I know what OG Anunoby can do, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner. But who are those two guards going to be when the stage is the brightest? Madison Square Garden. Then you're going straight to Indy. There's a lot of different. That's a culture shock right there. That's going to be very interesting. So you got Pat McAfee in your corner too. So I'm rooting for Indy just for inside the Hoosier mind and content creation. I think it would be great. Also, I'm right next door, so you'll see me outside my window like watching. But I'll look over the lake and be like, Tone's doing it. But I'm gonna go New York. I'm gonna go New York.
New York in how many games?
That's when people get mad. I'm going to say New York in 5.
New York in 5? Okay. I was trying to think of a clever, like, Shannon Sharp equivalent, like, saying, like, Tyrese Halliburton and my heart hurting.
Laundry detergent. I don't know.
Laundry detergent. Pacers in 5.
Fuck 'em.
Pacers in 5. But real quick before we do go to break, though, there was kind of a cool statistic brought up that I wanted to point out here, and
Sure.
hopefully it's all correct, but I think it's pretty cool. Last 4 teams in the playoffs. OKC has never won a championship. Minnesota has never won a championship. India has never won a championship. New York Knicks have won 2, but their last one was in 1973. So no matter what happens, no matter who wins, no matter who goes and whatnot, we're going to witness a team winning a championship for the first time or for the first time in 52 years, regardless of what happens and where everybody goes. So
that's great.
I feel like that's pretty cool, nonetheless.
It's great for the game. It's great for the game, especially with. I know we got to go to commercial, but like them 2010s with Curry and LeBron were
LeBron. You
as
got
special as it was
yeah.
just like, man.
It was like the same team. Like you had the Warriors repeating, you had the Cavs, you had the Lakers, you had the Celtics.
It's legendary, but like, it's not my team. So like the fuck, you know what I mean?
Right.
If it was the 90s Bulls, me and you would be like, yeah, like,
let's go.
Right. But it's not. We're ass. And we just watch other people win.
Right. But real quick, we'll go to commercial break and then we'll come back.
Tune in to Clado's Cacophony of Sound every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern on Military Broadcast Radio at mbradio.us or on Twitch at DJ_Clado. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
All right, welcome back into Inside the Hoosier Mind, brought to you in part by Military Broadcast Radio, helping give veterans a voice. Back with the Shy Kid, Mike Hughes, to talk some WNBA now, with honestly what I also feel like is a great storyline. Like there's a great storyline on the NBA side, like Mike alluded to, with, you have players labeled as overrated or underrated. You've got the trades, like I just pointed out before the commercial break, teams that have a chance to win their first ever championship in franchise history or the first time to do it in almost 50 years. On the women's side for the WNBA, though, we got all these great stories from college basketball that now transferred over to the pros. And obviously, what's bigger than Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese? Obviously, it happened a lot during college with LSU versus Iowa. Angel Reese, of course, gets the national championship win that Caitlin, unfortunately, was never able to do. Because let's be honest, when you look at the WNBA, not the WNBA, women's college basketball and the teams that are there and the depth in women's college basketball, it's like night and day different to the men's. Like almost every year for the men's, I'm like, man, I don't know who's going to win it. And you really don't see it until like the season goes on. But man, you look at the women's side, you've got Texas, you've got LSU, you've got South Carolina, you've got UConn. At the time when Caitlin was there, you had Iowa, you've got USC, you've got Ohio State, you had Indiana there was on a hot roll for a little bit. Like you've got all of these big bad teams in women's college basketball. But of course, none bigger than Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Well, as it's transferred over, obviously Caitlin was kind of the, golden child that everybody loved coming out of college. She broke the NCAA's all-time scoring record for, the men's and women's side both. Comes into the Fever with high expectation, absolutely balls out as the rookie of the year and whatnot. Angel obviously feels a little bit slighted, and, she made some comments of she's not the only person that has made, women's basketball great. I'm included in this too. And I will say, as someone who I'm going to try to play neutral, because, much like I've told Mike, I don't really follow much professional basketball. I love college basketball. I'm trying to get into more of the Fever in the Chicago Sky and whatnot. I'll say this. I think Angel's absolutely right in the fact of it's not just Caitlin. Caitlin's just who kind of got more of the spotlight on her than others. And you can definitely attest to this more because, I don't know as many of the WNBA players, especially a lot of the famous legends. Sue Bird is probably the biggest one that I know off the top of my head, and that's probably who most everybody knows off the top of their head is Sue Bird. But, Caitlin, Angel, Haley Von Lith out of, LSU, TCU, and Louisville, Paige Buchers, Juju Watkins, like all of these women have truly made college basketball great and, have truly contributed. So Angel's not necessarily wrong in the fact of you can't just give Caitlin the sole credit. Like, Angel is also a part of that story too. So, I mean, I know a lot of people hate on Angel for it because she's not as flashy. She doesn't put up the same type of numbers that Caitlin does. She's not, to me, as much as a perimeter shooter as to me, Angel is more of a defender. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But you look at her rebound numbers and whatnot. I mean, she's more of a defender than she is
Yeah.
an offensive player. But that's just me looking from the outside in and trying to be neutral anyway.
No, yeah, I mean the some of the shots if you're a Sky fan or just an Angel Reese supporter, definitely will piss you off at times when all the missed layups and
Mhm.
everything that went into that. It happens, and that was a part of her learning curve, was figuring that out. Now we're only one game into this season, but we definitely did see a lot of that as well throughout this game against the Fever. And it's frustrating because you saw her work with so many greats throughout the offseason. You saw her work with Lisa Leslie and picking her brain. Lisa Leslie's, I mean, we talk about Sue Bird being the most iconic, but Lisa Leslie might be the best to ever do it.
Right.
And it's frustrating to see Caitlin drop a triple double if you're Chicago, and then Angel just kind of be what she already was. And
Yeah.
that's where you're starting to see, Angel did get taken number 7 overall. Is there a reason for that?
Right.
And what did a lot of people see that others didn't? Because to me, Angel was Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink. That was what
Yep.
I thought was going to happen. And for her to land outside of the top 5 amazed me. Or not Cameron Brink, it was Camila Cardoso, then Cameron Brink,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
But regardless, it was very interesting to me, especially because at LSU she averaged 23 and 10, something crazy like that. She was the number 1 scorer. She was incredible. And then in the women's game, it's slightly different. The rebounding is still there, the defense is still there, but offensively she's trying to find her own. You're right though. You're right 100%. And I've talked to Angel a million times covering the team and really doing what I'm doing. And it hurts to kind of see the conversation turn into something that's more than basketball. The WNBA doing their investigation right now about what happened. What was it, Sunday or Saturday? Whatever.
Yeah.
Over the weekend.
Saturday. Yeah, Saturday.
Saturday was, we're hearing racial slurs get taunted towards the Chicago Sky bench. I didn't hear anything over the broadcast. Obviously, Sky players were there. So if they're saying it happened, then it happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's unfortunate because it becomes bigger than basketball. And last year I talked to Angel kind of about that, about the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird comparison of like, how, Magic was this arrogant, cocky, however you want to paint him to be. And then Larry was, that's an American. You know what I mean? And it's just, listen, everybody listening to this is Mike's opinion. This does not reflect the network or inside the Hoosier mind. Maybe it does. I don't know. If they want to own it, they can own it. If not, it's completely okay. But Angel could be the worst human being in the entire world. She could be a horrible person. Not saying she is, but she could be. And let's say she is. That doesn't excuse anybody to be making racial slurs or taunting anybody of any form, of any shape, of any color. Because the way I see it is like this, right? You have a black family or a Hispanic family or an Asian family sitting at a Fever game just trying to enjoy themselves, and you have somebody screaming racial slurs next to them. Like, my kids are here. Like, I brought them to a basketball game to see, like you said, some of these empowering women who have changed the game, and this is what's happening on the other side. And that's gone through the history of sports, whether that's Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Jackie Robinson, Magic Johnson, Allen Iverson. Like, we can talk about this all day long, but for whatever reason on the women's side, it's a lot heavier in 2025 than on the men's. I see Draymond Green kick Sabonis in the chest, stomp him out. And you didn't hear anybody saying stuff like that to Draymond Green. Patrick Beverly out here being a menace to society. You don't hear people say stuff like that to Pat. The fact that it's happening to Angel, it's insanely unfortunate. And I understand, hey, maybe you want to say that, she's not the best scorer. Maybe she gets a lot of her own rebounds, whatever. I accept that. Like, I love banter like that. I love when people say Clark can't play defense or Angel can't score, or like when they go at each other for that, and that rivalry continues to grow, because we know it is one. These two women do not rock with each other. I don't care what they say. They could make a commercial holding hands, running down the street into a rainbow forest. Like they don't rock with each other. That's clear as day. But what I don't like is when it turns into a race war outside of them. Social media, I've had to turn off comments on a video I did with Diamond to Shields because everybody's talking about Angel and saying the most horrendous of things. You think she's flashy, you think she's arrogant. Okay, that's fine. But that gives nobody the right to say those things. Tony, how do you feel being in Indiana, kind of just hearing those things kind of happening?
Yeah, I mean it's disappointing as a whole. And I was gonna say even not just from like an Indiana thing, but even as a whole, like you said, if you're mad and you don't like someone, that's one thing. And I feel this is what happens a lot of times, and I feel like this is why things get brought up, is if you don't have a valid argument for something, then you start reaching for whatever you can to basically be that next jab or that next thing to try to hurt somebody, because you can't formulate a good enough argument either in your mind or in that person's mind of this is what I need to do to be able to get my point across. So you stoop to something like that in order to, try to hurt that person. And again, at the end of the day, like, these are two women that they play a game, they play it very well. Like you said, if people want to say Angel can't shoot, she can't do offense, fine. If you want to say Caitlin can't do defense, that's fine. But that's part of the fun of it. And I would say for a lot of these people, if you're willing to go to some of these games, obviously you have some type of vested interest either in the game or even just in sports in general. So if you've ever seen any type of a debate, whether it's something like this, whether it's something on professional news or whatnot, you never see them going that far of like, oh, hey, I'm going to take a personal shot. Now we've seen it because we saw it with like Skip and Shannon. And then obviously that ultimately led to the dissolution of that show as a result of that. And it sucks because both of them had great chemistry together and it was fun to watch them kind of, duke that out. If I'm Angel at that point, I'm not going to say it's enough to cause me to like quit, but it is something. It's like, I don't do this, just, I mean, probably some of them do it just for the money, but you do it because you love the game and you enjoy doing it. And it's cool whenever, like you said, if that family does get to go and experience that and you do get to show your kids like, hey, look at these women who are at the top of their game and they're just getting started, and you want to, share that experience with your kids and make it enjoyable, and something like that gets brought into it's disappointing and it's disheartening more than anything.
It ruins the fan experience. It ruins. I mean, there's people who will never go back to a game after stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to even like kind of have those conversations. Last year, Camila Cardoso and I were standing next to each other, and I could hear people saying stuff about her, and it wasn't even near the same. And that was like friendly banter, kind of talking about her being a Gamecock at South Carolina and, working with Dawn Staley. Like it was fun rivalry stuff that even you being an LSU fan would have appreciated.
Yeah.
And then I stand by Angel and you're in two different worlds. You know what I mean? You're in a battlefield. It's 1935. Like it's insane. It reminds me, it sounds crazy and people are going to be like, it's not even the same realm. But if you ever saw the movie 42, there's this scene where everybody's screaming at Jackie Robinson and there's a little boy in the crowd kind of confused on like why everyone's yelling. And then he eventually just goes into it as well. And he starts doing exactly what he saw his father doing. And that's the stuff that, the WNBA, they're, in my opinion, they're a year or two late on this. Like they're talking about, there's no room for hate. But last year, it went the entire season before the commissioner or anybody really even said anything. And that to me is like, this kind of stuff should have been already, resolved or and not resolved. I don't really know what you can do, especially on social media side of things. But like, it's just super unfortunate.
Yeah. And it definitely sucks. Part of it kind of reminds me of like, and real quick before we get out, it kind of reminds me of like a WWE script because again, for that whole rivalry, Caitlin was kind of portrayed as this underdog good guy that everybody wanted to root for. Then, of course, you had the big bad villains in Angel Reese, LSU, And then I think just because, Angel got to be cocky and, like did the whole showing the finger in the ring thing, I think that just added to, oh, she's the villain. We gotta.
Caitlin did it first, by the way. I always want to point that out. Caitlin went like this first, but that's another show.
And I'm just saying, they also got that from my boy, another LSU Tiger, Joe Burr, just about like 4 years before him.
Yeah,
but
he got it from Cena, like, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly, it happens.
It happens.
It happens. But nonetheless, buddy, I appreciate you being on as always. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you like everything that Mike said, you want to cover more on the Chicago Sky, the Bulls, the Bears, check out the Shy Kid on almost all the social media to be able to find that out. If you appreciate everything here on Military Broadcast Radio, definitely check them out. Check all the great veteran podcasters and whatnot that we have. But appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will be hopefully back next week. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in